so many options of Gua Sha tools, how do you know which one to choose? No fear, in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly which one you should be using, which one is the best for your purposes, and how to find the perfect one for you. Stay tuned. So when you're choosing a Gua Sha tool, there's three things you really need to consider. First, the material. Second, the shape. Third, the size. And we're going to go through each one by one. In terms of the material, the three main ones that people use are plastic, jade, and then it's stone. Now you also have other ones such as steel. Now those start to get really expensive and the average user won't be able to afford that, or they won't want to afford that. That leaves us with these three, and I'm going to talk about them right now. Now with plastic, the best thing about it is that it's cheap. It's super cheap. This should cost you no more than a couple dollars. Now another good thing though is that when you drop it, it won't break, unlike the stone or the jade. They'll crack pretty easily. The downsides with this is that it's flimsy. That's the first one. You can see that it kind of bends already. It doesn't feel as good on the skin. And the third thing is that it's very slippery. So imagine you put some balm on yourself, or you put some balm on your back and you're using it. This could easily slip off your hands. The last thing I actually forgot to mention is that because it's so lightweight, you actually need to apply more force in order to get the same level of scrape as the other tools. So next up we have the jade. This is actually a white jade, and in my opinion it's a step up from the plastic. Now it's still relatively inexpensive, but it does do a better job because it's a bit heavier than the plastic. So you don't need to apply as much force when you scrape. It makes it a bit easier on the hands. Now the downside with this is that when you drop it, it will crack, it will break, and so it is fragile. And the other thing is you don't feel the vibrations as much as the better ones. Not that you do with the plastic, but with the higher end tools you'll actually feel vibrations on areas where you need it the most. It's good if you're a beginner, so I would pick this up if you're just starting out. Thirdly, we have the stone. So this is made out of Beyond stone, and this actually, you feel more resonation, so more vibration, so you can feel it better when you scrape. It's heavier than the jade, so again that means even less force required on your part, making it easier. Now the downside as well is that it is fragile, and that's really the main thing, that if you drop this it will break. The good news is that this is still relatively inexpensive compared to the really high-end ones, which are the steel type tools. Those are the best obviously, but they cost a lot more. But if you're the average user, then you would probably want to go with something more affordable, and in my opinion the stone is the best one out of them. Now the next thing you want to consider is the shape. Now we got three different shapes. We got this, it's kind of like a moon shape, right? We got this, which is like an S shape, and then finally we got this, which is kind of like a fish shape. There's no right or wrong, it's more of a preference in terms of the shape, but what I like is something that's more versatile. So this fish one really, it has one edge, so this is good for large surfaces, and then it has these small ridges right here. But that doesn't, that's good for, let's say you're using it on your fingers or something, but otherwise it's, you can't really make use of this very much. The moon shape, similar story. It's got a big round edge here. This is good for, the back or large surface areas. However, again, these ridges here, they're hard to use. Now this S shape, it looks kind of like a thunderbolt. This is my all-time favorite shape because of the number of edges you could use. So you have this smaller edge for the really smaller surface areas. If you want to get to a very pointy spot, you got this one. If you got a big surface area like the back, then you can use this area. So it's quite versatile, and that's the only reason I like this one over the others. Now finally, the most important thing to consider, other than the material, is the size. Now here are two different ones. You obviously have a smaller one and one that is much bigger. So what is the benefit of having a big one versus a small one? Now a small one you can carry it around, it's easy to slip in your pocket, it's easy to put in your purse or whatever, and it's super lightweight. Now, the big one here, obviously it's harder to carry, but it has a lot of advantages, and one of that is that it is heavier, right? And that means when you're scraping, you need to apply far less pressure because the weight of the stone itself does most of the work for you. Now, the other thing is that because it's longer, you can get into harder to reach areas. So let's say you want to use it on your shoulders, it's really easy because of how big it is. Or you can use it on your lats because you can easily reach, whereas if you have a smaller one, it's much harder to do, right? It's less slippery because of how big it is. Meaning, after you put the balm on, if you're using the small tool, the whole thing will get oily and it's just going to be slipping everywhere from your hands. This one, because it's so big, it's only going to get oily at the top here, and the handle will stay relatively dry, so you'll be able to continue scraping your body without having the tool slip out of your hand. So in my opinion, I would go for a big one as opposed to a small one, but again, if you want to be able to carry it around, or if you don't plan on using it on any big surface areas, then the small one will do you just fine. So let me know in the comments what your preference is. If you have any questions, let me know as well, and talk to you in the next video.